Day today?
26th.
We are here on the 26th of February at UCLA having a debate on abortion. Abortion! Specifically, we're asking the question that this House believes that pro-choice is more important than pro-life. More important than pro-life. We'll first hear from Laura. Let the debates begin.
Okay, so I'm arguing for the affirmative side that pro-choice is more important than pro-life. So the major problem, this has been a debate that's been going on for many years, but the major problem is that some people believe that the children should not, that the parents should not have an abortion and that the child has a right to live, while I'm arguing that it should be the woman's choice whether or not she wants to have an abortion. So
Power stance, feet wider than your shoulders.
So this debate started after the 1973 Supreme Court ruling of Roe v. Wade, which provided women with the right to choose to have abortions. And since this decision in 1973, there have been many challenges that made oppositions to the decision. And this was said by researcher Sheldon in 1988. I know that's a dated source, but a lot of the stronger resources were from back then, since it occurred back then. So even though abortion opponents have been unsuccessful in their efforts to overturn Roe v. Wade, they have had some policy success in recent years, and I think that this is a problem because there's contrasting opinions on what women's rights are. So this is a big problem because having a child is a life-changing experience, and if a woman doesn't feel emotionally, financially, or physically ready for it, she should have the right to decide that. So if the government is trying to force women into having children, then it's unfair for a woman and her partner as well as the unborn child, because this could have a huge impact on that child's life if the mother is not invested in the raising of the child. So according to researcher Kissling in 2011, abortion is a private decision and the state should have no power over a woman's body. The reason that this is such a big problem is because there can be a variety of factors that cause women to want to get an abortion. It's possible that she was raped, or it's possible that she doesn't, and it's that she doesn't want a child as that memory. And it's also possible that it is a minor and they're not ready to have that responsibility. So it's unfair to generalize all women who choose to get an abortion into one group because each situation is unique. So according to Carrier in a journal, it's a problem if abortion becomes outlawed because it's an act that causes no involuntary harm and produces some benefits for individuals and society in general and should never be outlawed. And according to BBC News in 2014, women have a moral right to decide what to do with their bodies, and the right to abortion is vital for gender equality. So this BBC News in 2014 also said that banning abortions puts women at risk for forcing them to use illegal abortionists. So even if they are banned, then people still probably will want to get abortions if they're put in that situation, and then it could be unsafe if they go to a doctor that's not legal. So one reason that we have this problem is because people who think that it's immoral think that it's killing the unborn child, and there's been debates on whether or not the child is born or it has feelings at the moment that it's inside of their mother. But there and a number of studies have found that parental involvement laws reduce the number of abortions being performed on minors within the boundaries of a given state. So this was from researcher New in 2011. So the first solution is for our society to recognize that women should be the ones choosing if they want to have the child. The government shouldn't have this type of power and control over the individual. BBC News in 2014 said that the right to abortion for gender equality and women should have a more right to decide what they want to do with their bodies. Another solution could be to eliminate the parental consent laws for minors, as well as laws that limit funding for abortions. So it's important for them to be accessible and for women to be able to decide what they want to do if they're in that situation. And I think that this solution will work because women will be able to make the best possible decision for themselves and their family members. And I think I'm out of time.
4:45.
So for all these reasons, say the resolution again and conclude.
Okay, so therefore, I believe that pro-choice is more important than pro-life.
I now stand open for
I now
cross.
stand open for cross-examination.
A little louder, please.
I now stand open for cross-examination.
Good, you're both in the view. Good.
Okay. So do you believe that life is like the ultimate goal for people, or it's like the biggest, like the most important thing for people to have?
I think it's important, but I also think that it's important for the well-being of the mother, for them to...
Okay, so read me the evidence in your speech that indicates that a child doesn't have life at conception.
Well, I do have evidence that during the first month, the child doesn't have, they haven't developed feelings yet.
Okay, but it's still alive,
Look out here,
yes?
look out here.
They technically are still alive.
So they can feel pain and we're killing a living being.
I think that they're not considered, it's not considered killing a child at that point. I think that...
Look at me, you're trying to persuade me.
Okay, let's move on. Where in the resolution does it state that we should like make abortions legal or illegal? It just states that pro-choice is more important than pro-life.
I'm arguing that I think it's more...
So what I'm trying to say is, can't a world exist and where pro-life is more important, but abortions can still be legal?
I think that it kind of depends on the situation. I think that people who believe in pro-life can believe that, but I also think it's more important for people to have the choice.
But the resolution doesn't call for like eliminating abortion, right?
No, it just calls that it's...
You're trying to get your ground down now, right? How much time do you have left?
It's 1:40 right now.
1:40, you have 20 seconds, so you have shoot one more question.
Okay, also, don't you think by making abortions, like upholding it and saying that it's more important than the concept of life, this makes it socially acceptable for people not only to get one abortion, but 2 or 3 and use it as a method of birth control?
I don't think that people should use it as a method of birth control, but I do think that they should have the option if they're put in that situation.
That's time. Thank you. The chair will now recognize, that's time, have a seat. Chair will now recognize the leader of the opposition for a speech not to exceed 4 minutes in length. Tap your desk, here.
Okay. Can we not videotape?
Can we now what?
Can we not videotape this?
No?
Okay.
It's how you grow.
Okay. Okay. So what you'll see at the end of the round is even if you believe that abortion is important, I'm going to argue that contending that like life is important is like the biggest issue in today's round. So the resolution states that pro-choice is more important than pro-life. The resolution does not call for elimination of abortion, but instead states that life is the most important thing. And at the end of this speech, you'll realize that life is what we should be weighing at the end of the round. But let's look at the 3 main points of why you'll be voting for the opposition team. The first main point is that life begins at conception. Remember in cross-examination when I asked Laura to point for evidence that says life does not start at conception, she said that life does start at conception, but at 1 month they don't like feel pain. However, I think this is the most morally abhorrent thing that you can uphold at the end of today's round. When we make abortion important, we justify killing of a living being. We think that sets a bad precedent, and morality is what you're going to weigh as the biggest issue at the end of today's round, because at the point where we justify killing living beings, or at the point where we justify killing something inside of someone because it's alive, that's wrong, because that's practically murder. So what you can see is that the baby still feels pain even when it's in the fetus, and a good alternative would be for parents to put their child up for adoption after it's born. Therefore, we can still uphold women's rights, but make pro-life important. The mother doesn't have to take care of the child once it's put up for adoption. And for children in adoption, the number of adoption parents is high. So we're going to contend that to uphold the life of this fetus, to uphold the life of this child, we should uphold pro-life and put these children up for abortion, for adoption rather than aborting them. But let's look at the second main reason why they're going to be voting that pro-life is more important, is that when we uphold abortion, it leads to more abortions. This makes it socially acceptable, and I think when you make something as important as abortion socially acceptable, we're justifying murders. So we can see is that when we make abortion legal, or we say it's more important than the right to life, that results in people getting more than one abortion, getting 2 abortions, getting 3, and that's wrong because remember, life starts at conception, murdering an innocent child is wrong. And so we think that this leads to my third argument, is that when you make abortion socially acceptable, you make it a form of birth control. And we think making it a form of birth control is specifically bad because it makes killing an innocent fetus like it's a form of contraception, and we think that's wrong because it's a living being, it feels pain, and using it as a form of birth control means that it leads to more abortions. And we think at the end of the round you should be upholding the right to life, and we're not saying that abortions should be illegal. The resolution does not call for that. We're just saying the right to life is the most important thing, and when we uphold life, that means that we shouldn't put abortion as the more important issue at the end of today's round. We should put the life of a child in the fetus as the most important thing. So at the end of the round, because life begins at conception, because a fetus can feel pain, and because when we put abortion as more important than pro-life, we justify this egregious breach of morality, I think you should be voting for the opposition team.
I now stand over cross-examination.
Cross-examination.
320.
320, good. Okay.
Okay.
So cross-examine Hossein.
Okay. So is this where we do the age
No, that's not refutation. This is where you ask your questions.
Okay. So
I take it he didn't give you his case. Did you talk to him?
No.
Did you have his number or his email?
Yeah, but I mean, I knew he wasn't coming.
You knew?
Well, I found out right before that he wasn't coming. So.
Oh, great. What was his excuse?
I'm not sure.
He just says, I ain't coming. Okay, whatever. I don't want to get off on it. My battery's almost dead. I'm very mad. Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Both get in the screen, scoosh together, to the left a little more.
Okay.
Over that way. Yeah. Thank
So
you.
you said that adoption is a better option, but pregnancy, it puts a woman's body through a lot, and I mean, they could be physically and emotionally not ready for that.
I think that's a risk you take when you have unprotected sex, and which leads to abortion. So I think if you're going to have unprotected sex and that's going to lead to you having a pregnancy, you should man up and take the responsibility for it.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's some situations where women don't really have that option.
That's why the resolution doesn't call for making abortion legal. I think, maybe in some cases it's important for people to have abortion, but I think at the end of the round you should be upholding the right to life as the most important thing. So maybe, in rape cases, people maybe should be having abortions, or they should have the right to it, but when we uphold the right to abortion over the right to life, that's when we don't recognize that the fetus is living and it's a living being. That's the same reasoning and the same justification that justifies murder of a child, and I think that's egregious.
But I think that if we don't recognize that it's important, then people might feel like they have no options if they do get in that situation where they need to have an abortion, because nobody wants to go have an abortion. They are put in a situation where they feel like they have to. Nobody purposely tries to get pregnant so they could have an abortion.
Okay, so how does that respond to the fact that individuals who get one abortion are more likely to get a second or a third one?
I mean, I still think it's important, even if that does happen, I think that's only in certain situations that occurs that they.
Thank you very much. Okay, now let's have refutation. 4-step refutation. She said, I disagree because, therefore.
Okay. She said that having abortions will make it socially acceptable and people will think that it's socially acceptable to have abortions, but I disagree that that's an important point because even if it is not socially acceptable and it's illegal, people are still going to get them and people are still going to feel like they need to get them and that might put them in danger because they're going to doctors that aren't credible doctors for it.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. She also said that the child has a right to life and that the mother should put the baby up for adoption. But there's also certain situations where maybe it's a minor who's still in school and they need to finish their education, or it's someone who their body can't go through that right now, so therefore pro-choice is more important.
Mm-hmm. She made 4 points, so keep going. She said.
Okay. She said that having an abortion is immoral because it's killing the unborn baby, but
I disagree.
I disagree.
Because?
Because I think that if the child doesn't have feelings yet, it won't have as much of an effect.
Therefore, pro-choice is more.
Pro-choice is more important than pro-life.
Okay, that's fine. Let's hear your rebuttal. 4 steps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So at the end of the round, what you'll see, because it's gone conceded that a life begins at conception, it's pro-life, that's like morally wrong. So, but let's look at what Laura said. She says that abortion upholds a women's rights and leads to gender equality. However, I disagree because I think in a world where we pass the resolution, we still uphold life, and that's the life of any gender. So we think that therefore I think that pro-choice is less important than pro-life. Further, you can still uphold women's rights and not have a world in which abortion is important because we can still like put them up for adoption. But let's look at the second argument that Laura states. She says that when we don't uphold abortion, people don't have the right over their own body. However, I disagree because I think that's something you're like at the point where you're having unprotected sex that results in pregnancy. That's a risk you're willing to take. So when you do have sex and when you do become pregnant, which results in people maybe wanting to have abortion, you like forgo your right over your own body because at that point there's another body inside of you, and we think that at the point where there's another body inside of you, you sacrifice your own rights because there's something else in you, and we think at the point where you uphold abortion, that makes it justified and that makes it legal and that makes it important to kill someone inside of you. So at the end of the round, you can see that when we make pro-choice more important than pro-life, we don't uphold the rights of the living being inside of a mother, and because life is the most important thing and it's gone conceded that life is the most important thing at the end of today's round, you should be voting for the opposition team.
Thank you very much. Quickly fill your ballots out. Can we thank Shireen for stepping in at the last minute? Yeah. Very quickly fill out your ballot, pass it in. Thank you. Have you voted?
No.
Are you still thinking about it? You got about 3 more seconds. Anybody else still voting? Why are you still on the fence? That's what's looking at others.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, wait, my bad. Can I change them?
No.
No. Well, what I mean is I'm voting for her, but I put this one, so I just want to make a correct. Yeah, my bad.
Still crazy after all these years.
My bad.